The crowd didn't bother lowering their voices. That was the first thing 11-year-old Amara Holt noticed. It was 5:17 p.m., the busiest hour at Ridgeway Central Station, where thousands of people rushed across marble floors that gleamed like polished ice. Commuters brushed past each other, clutching briefcases, hot coffees, grocery bags, and impatience. But today, something was different. A man, thin, gray-bearded, clothes dusted with city dirt, stood trembling near the ticket kiosk. His hands shook so violently that the stack of coins he held in his palm clattered onto the floor like scattered raindrops. People stared. People whispered. People judged. No one helped. A security guard leaned against a steel barrier, arms crossed, smirking as the man bent down and tried to gather his coins. "Sir, you're holding up the line," the guard barked. "If you can't pay, move aside." Laughter flickered through the queue. Someone muttered loudly, "These homeless types always make trouble." Another voice, "Probably drunk." Another, "Or pretending so he can ask for pity money later." The man looked up, eyes wide and glassy, not with anger, but with pure confusion, like he wasn't fully present in his own body. His breathing hitched. His shoulders curled inward as if the world itself were pressing on them. And that was the moment everyone turned away. Everyone, except Amara. She had been standing near the vending machines, hugging her backpack to her chest and waiting for her mother, who was running late from work. Her braids, tied with mismatched pink beads, brushed her cheeks as she watched the scene unfold. She felt it immediately. That tight pinch in her chest. That warm, stubborn pull she always felt whenever someone was being treated badly. The kind most adults ignore. The kind most kids learn to silence. But not her. Amara's eyes stayed fixed on the man as he reached for a final coin, only to have a teenage boy intentionally kick it away with the toe of his sneaker. The coin rolled across the floor, bouncing against a bench leg. The teen snorted, "Oops," then high-fived his friend. The man's trembling grew worse. His lips formed words, but no sound came out, like he had forgotten how to speak. A woman in a red coat waved her hand dismissively. "Honestly. He's probably faking some breakdown." "Just call someone to take him out of here already," another said. "Before he scares the kids." The irony was that the only child watching wasn't scared at all. She was hurting. Her small fingers gripped her backpack straps. Her breathing grew unsteady. Her feet moved before her mind even caught up. Amara stepped out of the quiet corner and into the harsh fluorescent light of the station's open floor. The sound of shuffling shoes and irritated voices faded as she approached the man. No one noticed her at first. She was small. Quiet. Invisible, just like the man they were mocking. But then she stopped right in front of him. Her shoes, old, worn, the soles nearly peeling, squeaked slightly. The man lifted his head again, startled. His eyes, a pale stormy blue, flickered in confusion when he saw the child standing there. He whispered, barely audible, "I'm sorry." He didn't even know why he was apologizing. People like him had been conditioned to. Amara knelt down slowly. Her knees touched the cold marble floor as she picked up the scattered coins one by one. She placed them gently into his shaking hands. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're not in anyone's way." Her voice was steady, warm, far too compassionate for a world that rarely gave her kindness in return. The boy who had kicked the coin widened his eyes, surprised. "Hey, kid, what are you doing?" She ignored him. The security guard pushed off the barrier. "Young lady, step away. This man is causing a disturbance." But Amara stood up straighter, lifting her chin slightly the way she did when teachers tried to blame her for other kids' noise in class. "He's not causing anything," she said. "He's trying." A hush rippled outward. Not silence, but surprise. People weren't used to being challenged by an 11-year-old girl with a soft voice and steady eyes. The man blinked hard, swallowing. I didn't mean to make trouble. I just need to get home. His voice cracked like thin ice. I can't remember the station well today. I think I got turned around. His fingers fumbled the coins again, and Amara gently steadied his hands with her small ones. Let's do it together, she whispered. Somewhere in the crowd, a woman scoffed. This is ridiculous. Another man crossed his arms. Let the guards handle it. But Amara didn't look away from him, not once. Because she saw something everyone else ignored. He wasn't dirty. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't begging. He was scared. Lost. Alone in a sea of people who had already decided who he was. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest as she guided him toward the kiosk. Behind them, the teen's mocking voice rang out. Look at that. A little charity worker. Maybe she wants a medal. The guard added, kids these days. Always sticking their noses where they don't belong. Amara didn't turn around. Her grip stayed firm. Her step stayed steady. But something hot and heavy pressed behind her eyes. Not tears, anger. Why was kindness always treated like a mistake? The man tried to speak again, his voice trembling. Why are you helping me? Amara looked up at him with a simplicity that disarmed even him. Because no one else did. A few people shifted uncomfortably. A few turned away. A few stared at her like they were seeing her for the first time. She didn't care. She just wanted him to feel safe. Just then, the station speakers crackled. A train announcement echoed overhead, but Amara barely heard it. She was focused, totally, on helping him place the coins into the machine. His fingers still shook. But he wasn't trembling alone anymore. And that was enough. If this moment made your heart tighten, tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Most people rushing through Ridgeway Central Station only saw a small black girl in faded sneakers and a too large hand-me-down hoodie. But if they had looked closer, really looked, they would have seen something rare. Amara Holt wasn't just kind. She was untouched by the coldness the world kept trying to teach her. Her innocence wasn't naive, it was stubborn. A choice she made every day, even when life gave her every reason to be harder. Amara lived with her mother in a tiny third-floor apartment above a tailor shop. The building was old, with chipped paint and a stair railing that creaked like it wanted to retire. Her mother worked 2 jobs, bus driver in the morning, hotel cleaning staff at night, and even then, money was always tight. But Amara never complained. She shared what little she had. She gave away her own snacks at school when classmates forgot theirs. She carried spare tissues in her pocket because she noticed people cry more often than they admit. She stayed after class to help her teacher erase the whiteboard because she knew adults got tired too. And she never asked for anything in return. Her mother used to shake her head and say, "Baby, your heart is too big for this world." Amara would smile and answer, "Then I'll make the world bigger." That was who she was. So when she saw the trembling man in the station, lost, frightened, humiliated, it wasn't a question of whether she should help. It was a question of how fast she could reach him. Now she stood beside him at the ticket kiosk, helping his shaking fingers slide the last coin into the slot. The machine beeped, processing the purchase with all the cold indifference of a machine that didn't care who used it. But Amara cared. "Did you ride the train to get here?" she asked gently. The man nodded, pressing a hand to his temple. I think so. I'm not usually like this. I just have days where my mind fogs." Amara didn't fully understand, but she understood enough. Her small brows softened. "It's okay. Everybody has days like that." He blinked rapidly, not expecting compassion, especially not from a child. The truth was, Amara had a way of seeing the soft parts of people first. Maybe it was because she had experienced moments of being dismissed too. Teachers who assumed she knew less, kids who decided she couldn't afford nice things, strangers who tugged their bags closer when she walked by. But instead of learning to harden, she learned to notice. To pay attention. To look beneath the surface. She looked at him now, really looked, and noticed the details the crowd had missed. His jacket wasn't torn, it was wrinkled from being slept in. His shoes were expensive leather, but scuffed from neglect, not poverty. His watch, though old, was real. Solid metal, not plated. This wasn't a man who had always lived on the streets. This was someone who had fallen into something. Something he hadn't planned for. Something he wasn't prepared to survive alone. The man pressed his palm against the wall to steady himself. "I didn't mean to scare anyone." "You didn't," Amara assured him. Her voice was so matter-of-fact, so certain, that he believed her instantly. He looked down at her again, as if trying to understand why a child had more grace than everyone else combined. "Most people don't stop," he murmured. Amara nodded thoughtfully. "Mama says people see what they expect to see. But I like to see what's really there." He swallowed hard, because no stranger had ever said something so healing to him. Behind them, the noise of the station carried on. Rolling suitcase wheels, rushing footsteps, polite announcements layered over harsh laughter from the same teens who had mocked him moments earlier. But in this small pocket of space, everything felt quiet. Gentle. Safe. As the machine finally printed the ticket with a chime, Amara took it and placed it in the man's hand. "There," she said. "Now you can go wherever you need to." He stared at the ticket like it was something sacred. Like it proved he was still human. "Thank you," he whispered. "What's your name?" "Amara." She smiled. "It means, Grace. My grandma picked it." He let out a breath that wavered with emotion. "It suits you." She shrugged shyly, though pride flickered across her face. To her, kindness wasn't a performance. It wasn't a strategy. It wasn't for attention. It was instinct. A seed her mother planted. A gift her circumstances couldn't crush. A light no amount of hardship could dim. And that light, small, warm, steady, was about to change the entire city. But for now, she was just a little girl helping a stranger. Just a child choosing goodness when everyone else chose convenience. She didn't know she was saving someone important. She didn't know she was shifting the course of lives. She didn't know cameras were already pointing in her direction. She was simply doing what her heart told her to do. And that was why everything that came next was possible. The ticket kiosk finally printed out the man's ticket, but he didn't move. Something in his expression had shifted, subtle, fragile, uneasy. His breathing steadied, but his eyes kept darting across the station as if he expected someone to appear. Someone he didn't want to see. And Amara noticed immediately. Kids like her always noticed the things adults ignored. "Are you okay?" she asked, brushing her braids behind her shoulder as she stepped closer. The man hesitated before answering, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, no. I'm not sure." His hands trembled again. Not as violently as before, but enough that the ticket shook in his fingers. Amara's gaze softened. "Do you remember where you're supposed to go?" He nodded slowly. I know the direction. He swallowed hard. I don't remember why I came here in the first place." A strange heaviness settled over his features, like a memory trying to claw its way back but failing. For the first time, Amara felt a tiny pinch of worry, not fear, but protective instinct. "Did something happen?" she asked. The man looked away, toward the streaked glass windows overlooking the train platforms. Trains came and went in the distance, each departure punctuated with metallic screeches and bullet-like whooshes. "Yes," he whispered. And then, as if realizing he'd said too much, "No. Maybe. I don't know." The contradiction was sharp enough that even a child heard it. Behind them, the group of teens who had mocked him earlier kept throwing glances in their direction. Whispering. Snickering. One even held up a phone, recording. Amara couldn't tell if they were mocking the man, or her. A few adults had started watching too. Some with disapproval. Some with curiosity. A few with suspicion, like Amara was doing something wrong by standing beside him. A woman murmured loudly to her friend, "What if he's dangerous?" Her friend replied, "Exactly. Why is a child helping him? Where is her mother?" The man heard them, and he flinched. Not angrily. Not defensively. But with a devastating familiarity, like he had been accused of terrible things before. Amara stepped slightly in front of him, her small stance surprisingly firm. "He's not dangerous," she said clearly, turning to face the staring adults. The woman raised an eyebrow. "How would you know?" "Because I looked at him." A couple of people scoffed. But the man stared at Amara with something raw and sorrowful in his eyes. Gratitude, yes, but also fear. Fear that her kindness would cost her something. He leaned down slightly, lowering his voice. "You should go back to your mother," he said gently. "I don't want to cause trouble for you. Helping you isn't trouble." "It might be," he whispered. There it was again. That flicker of dread. Not of people. But of something else. Something following him. Something closing in. As if to confirm her suspicions, a pair of security officers began moving across the station, walking too quickly to be casual, too focused to be routine. Their heads turned as they scanned the area. And the man stiffened. Not the normal guilt of someone who'd been scolded earlier. This was different. Deep. Instinctive. Like prey recognizing the sound of hunters. Amara caught the change immediately. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Are those guards looking for you?" "I don't know," he said, but the words were hollow. Unconvincing. He knew. Or at least he feared. And fear is its own kind of truth. The officers grew closer, weaving through the crowd, their radios crackling with coded chatter. The man stepped back. "I should go." But he didn't move. Because he didn't know which direction was safe. Because his mind was still fogged. Because something in him, some instinct he didn't understand, told him not to walk into the open. Amara gently tugged his sleeve. "You're shaking again." He forced a smile. "I'll be all right." "No, you won't," she said softly, honesty hitting harder than any adult's concern. "Not alone." Her words made his throat tighten. No one had told him that in a long time. No one had noticed. No one had cared. But this child, this tiny girl with bright eyes and a heart too big for her small frame, saw right through him. Behind her, the guards had begun asking people questions. A couple pointed in their direction. The man's breathing sped up. Amara's grip on his sleeve tightened. Not in fear, but in resolve. Something bigger was happening. Something she didn't understand yet. Something that made the air feel heavy and electric. But she wasn't going to walk away. Not from him. Not now. Not when everyone else already had. And that moment, one small girl refusing to leave a trembling man's side, was the first spark in a chain of events that would shake the entire city. The noise of the station grew louder. Frantic footsteps, rolling luggage, the rumble of trains arriving and departing. But around Amara and the trembling man, there was a strange quietness, like the world was fading just enough to let two frightened souls hear each other. The man's breathing was uneven, but not from the earlier humiliation. This was different. This was fear wrapped in memory. Amara stepped closer, her small hand still gently gripping the sleeve of his worn jacket. "Sir," she said softly, "it's okay. You don't have to be scared." He forced a swallow. I don't want trouble to follow you." "It won't," she said confidently, though she didn't fully understand what kind of trouble he meant. But children don't need full explanations to understand when someone is hurting. She motioned toward a nearby bench tucked against the wall, slightly hidden by a vending machine. "Come sit. Just for a minute. You look dizzy." He hesitated, glancing toward the guards scanning the crowd. But her eyes softened again, and something in him melted. She wasn't pitying him. She wasn't frightened of him. She wasn't embarrassed to be seen with him. She simply cared. And that was rarer than wealth. He allowed her to lead him to the bench. When he sat, his shoulders slumped as though he'd been carrying the entire weight of the city on his back. "Thank you," he murmured. "You're welcome," she said, sitting beside him, swinging her small legs slightly because her feet didn't reach the floor. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The crowd swirled around them. People stole glances, some judgmental, some confused, a few recorded short clips on their phones as if witnessing an odd spectacle. But none of that touched the quiet bubble forming between them. Amara studied him the way only children can, the way adults forget how to. He didn't smell like the street. He didn't move like someone used to being ignored. He didn't speak like someone who had lost everything. He spoke like someone who had something taken. "What's your name?" she asked gently. He pressed a hand to his forehead again, as if the answer was hidden somewhere behind the fog clouding his mind. Then, slowly, he said, "My name is Elijah." The name came out fractured. Like a memory resurfacing through cracks. But it was there. Amara's face lit with a soft smile. "That's a nice name." Elijah let out a shaky breath. "I haven't heard someone say it kindly in a long time." Amara looked confused for a moment, then upset on his behalf. "People should say your name kindly." Elijah let out a laugh, thin, tired, almost painful. "You sound like my daughter." Her eyes widened. "You have a daughter?" He nodded slowly. "She's grown now. Smart. Strong. She used to tell me the same things. That people should treat each other better." "What happened to her?" Elijah's jaw tightened. His eyes glistened. The fog in his mind fought against something sharp, something painful. He stopped. Looked down. Voice trembling. "I don't remember." The heartbreak of that confession fell heavy between them. Amara's breath caught. Not out of fear. But out of the sorrow of realizing that this man wasn't lost on the street. He was lost inside himself. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a tiny folded napkin, the one she always kept in case someone else needed it. She handed it to him. Elijah blinked. "What's this for?" "For your eyes," she said. "In case they start crying." He stared at the napkin, and something inside him cracked open. No one had offered him anything in months. Not even dignity. Not even softness. But this little girl, this stranger, gave him more kindness in 5 minutes than the entire city had offered him in years. "Thank you, Amara," he whispered, voice thick. She smiled. A small, gentle smile that made even the cold station lights feel warmer. "I'm here," she said. "Until you're okay." He couldn't explain why that sentence made his throat tighten. He only knew that for the first time in a very long time. He didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel alone. And for the first time since he woke up lost and frightened that morning, he felt safe. For a few quiet moments, the bench felt like a shelter against the storm of the world. Elijah steadied his breathing. Amara dangled her legs lightly, glancing up at him every few seconds to make sure he hadn't slipped back into panic. But peace never lasts long in places where trouble is looking for someone. And trouble was already closing in. Across the station, the two security officers had stopped pretending to patrol. They spoke urgently into their radios, glancing again and again toward the bench where Elijah sat. One pointed. The other nodded sharply. Elijah saw it. Amara didn't, yet, but she felt the shift in him. His body tensed like a deer sensing the crack of a twig in the woods. "What's wrong?" she whispered. Elijah's voice dropped to a low tremble. "They're coming this way." Amara looked toward the guards, confusion tightening her small features. "Why? You didn't do anything." Elijah swallowed hard, his jaw tightening as a flicker of memory jabbed into place. He remembered being followed. Not today, no, further back. Days ago? Weeks? He wasn't sure. But uniformed men chasing him was not new. A part of him knew, deep down, that danger wasn't a distant possibility. It was a shadow that had already wrapped itself around him. He stood abruptly. Amara stood too. "Elijah, are you scared of them?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The fear in his eyes told its own story. The guards pushed through the crowd, calling into their radios with firm, clipped voices. "There, he's seated by the west wall. Visual confirmed. Moving in. Do not engage until backup arrives." Backup. A word heavier than footsteps. A word Elijah reacted to like a trigger. His hands clenched at his sides. "Amara, listen carefully. I need you to walk away from me." Her eyes widened. "No. Yes." His voice cracked, urgency spilling through. "I don't want them talking to you." She shook her head fiercely. "But you didn't do anything." Elijah pressed a shaking hand to his forehead, eyes squeezing shut. I don't remember what they think I did. That's what scares me." Amara stepped closer. "Then let me stay." "No," he whispered. "You've already done too much." But Amara placed her tiny hands on his arm. "Elijah," she said softly, "I'm not leaving you when you're scared." It was the gentleness of her voice, so steady, so certain, that stopped him from running. And in that moment of hesitation, something else changed. Up on the second-floor balcony of the station, where offices overlooked the platforms, a glass door swung open. A man wearing a gray suit stepped out, holding a tablet and a radio device. He whispered into it, eyes narrowing as he scanned the station. Then his gaze locked on Elijah. His expression sharpened. Focused. Predatory. Not a guard. Not security. Someone higher. Someone with purpose. And he began walking quickly toward the stairs. Elijah saw him, and the blood drained from his face. Amara followed his gaze. "Who is that?" Elijah's lips parted in dread. "I don't know. But I've seen him. He's been watching me." The fog in his mind throbbed painfully, forcing flashes of memory. A dark car parked across from the shelter where he slept. A man in a suit watching him from the sidewalk. Someone calling his name, his full name, in a voice he didn't recognize. He stumbled back, clutching the metal bench for balance. "Elijah?" Amara whispered. More guards appeared at the far end of the hall, moving fast. The man in the suit was descending the stairs. People were watching now, recording, whispering, pointing. Some thought it was a security incident. Some thought Elijah was dangerous. Others just wanted a viral clip. Only Amara saw what no one else saw. A terrified man being hunted. "Elijah," she said, tugging his sleeve urgently, "come on, let's go." But he couldn't move. His fear froze him in place. I can't, he rasped. I don't know who they are. I don't know why they want me. I don't remember. He clutched his temple again, pain ripping through his mind. Amara grabbed both his hands and pressed them between her own. Elijah. Look at me. He did. Her voice softened to a whisper that somehow rose above the noise of the entire station. You're not alone, she said. You hear me? I'm here. I'm right here. Elijah's breath steadied for a split second. But then. A radio crackled loudly. One of the guards shouted, Sir. Stop where you are. The man in the suit yelled, Do not let him leave. Elijah flinched so hard he nearly stumbled. But Amara pulled him behind the vending machine, shielding him with her tiny body, as if she could hide him from danger twice her size. Elijah, she whispered urgently, we have to move. He blinked at her. At her bravery. Her determination. Her unwavering loyalty. And something inside him clicked, not a memory, not clarity, but a choice. He reached for her hand. Okay, he whispered. Lead the way. Amara's heart pounded, but her grip tightened. She wasn't a hero. She wasn't trained. She was just a little girl with a big heart. But sometimes, that was enough to change destiny. And as the guards began closing in, a new sound cut through the chaos. A man's voice, loud and commanding. Hey! Get away from that child. A protector was about to step into the story. The shout cracked through the station like a bolt of electricity. Hey! Get away from that child. Heads whipped around. Phones lifted. People stopped mid-step. Amara stiffened. Elijah froze. And out of the crowd emerged a tall man in his late 40s, broad-shouldered, sharply dressed, moving with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. He stormed forward, finger pointed straight at Elijah. Step away from her, the man barked. Right now. Amara instinctively stepped in front of Elijah. No, she said, her voice small but fierce. He's with me. The man blinked, thrown off for a moment, but regained his posture quickly. His eyes narrowed at Elijah with distrust sharpened into something harsher. You don't know who you're standing next to, he snapped. Yes, I do, Amara shot back. His name is Elijah, and he's scared. The man scoffed. Scared? That's exactly what men like him pretend to be. Several bystanders murmured in agreement. Others pulled out their phones, ready to film what they thought would be a confrontation between a dangerous stranger and a brave adult stepping in to save a child. But they were wrong. Elijah wasn't dangerous. And the man confronting him was no hero. He was simply louder. More confident. And in the eyes of most adults, that was enough to make him right. Elijah hasn't done anything, Amara insisted. The man raised an eyebrow. He's a vagrant wandering around the station. Security's been looking for him. Elijah's lips parted in trembling confusion. I wasn't. The man cut him off sharply. Save it. He reached for Amara's arm. Come here, sweetheart. Let's get you away from. No. Amara yanked her arm back with surprising force. Don't touch me. The man froze, startled. Elijah stepped forward instinctively, breathing fast. Don't grab her, he warned, voice raw. Or what? The man challenged. You think you're protecting her? You can barely stand. He moved again toward Amara. And Elijah, shaking, terrified, barely coherent Elijah, shifted between them. A protective motion. Small. But powerful in intent. The bystanders gasped. Security officers rushed closer. The man in the suit from the upstairs balcony sped down the last few steps. Chaos swirled. But the loud man kept pushing, pointing, accusing, with no evidence, and no hesitation. He towered over Elijah. "Back away before someone gets hurt." Elijah's voice trembled. "I don't want trouble." "You are trouble." Amara snapped. "Stop," she yelled. "You don't even know him." Her voice echoed across the marble floor. For a moment, even the guards paused. The loud man blinked, taken aback. Amara's small chest rose and fell quickly, her braids trembling with her breaths. "He was shaking," she said, voice cracking. "He dropped his money. Nobody helped him." Everyone laughed. "You didn't see any of that." The man pressed his lips together. "He's not bad," she continued. "He's confused. He's scared. He's somebody's dad." Elijah's breath caught. Amara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Please stop yelling at him." A silence spread. Uncomfortable. Heavy. Accusatory, but not toward Elijah anymore. Toward the man who had assumed the worst. The man's expression flickered, annoyance softening into hesitation. But before the tension could settle, the upstairs man in the gray suit reached the floor. His authoritative voice sliced through the moment. "Elijah Hale." Elijah flinched as if struck. Amara turned sharply. "You know his name?" The man nodded once, coldly. "We've been searching for him." The loud man stepped aside quickly, relieved to deflect attention. "See? I told you. Something wasn't right." But Amara moved closer to Elijah again, refusing to let go of his sleeve. "What do you want with him?" she demanded. The suit man looked down at her. "The way people look at something they don't have time for. That's not your concern, young lady." "It is," Amara said. "He's my friend." Elijah's eyes filled instantly, not with fear, but with heartbreak. No one had called him friend in a long time. The suit man exhaled impatiently and lifted a hand toward the approaching guards. "Take him." Amara gasped. "No." Elijah staggered backward as two guards closed in. "I didn't do anything," he whispered, voice cracking. I don't understand." One guard reached for his arm. Amara threw herself between them. "Don't touch him." Gasps erupted from the crowd. The guard hesitated, no one wanted footage of a grown officer shoving a child. "Elijah Hale," the suit man repeated, "you need to come with us." Elijah shook his head violently. "I don't know you." "You will," the man said, eyes narrowing. "You will remember everything soon." A chill ran through Elijah. Amara grabbed his hand tighter. "I'm not letting them take you." But they were already surrounding him. And in that terrifying moment. The moment when it looked like Elijah would be dragged away by strangers. A deep voice boomed through the station. "Unhand that man." Every head turned. A new figure stepped out from the far end of the hall. Calm, powerful, commanding. Amara gasped. Elijah froze. And the entire station shifted. Because the protector had finally arrived. The station seemed to exhale as the new voice echoed through the hall. "Unhand that man." The crowd instinctively parted, creating a path as a tall, distinguished man approached. He walked with the grounded confidence of someone who never needed to raise his voice to command a room. Salt and pepper hair. Dark, tailored coat. A presence that felt both familiar and formidable. But what truly made everyone fall silent was his face. Because many recognized him. He was Samuel Grant. One of the city's most influential philanthropists, a man whose name was attached to hospitals, youth programs, disaster relief funds, a man who rarely appeared in public without a purpose. What was he doing here? The guards stiffened. The suit man froze mid-step. And Elijah? He stared at Samuel Grant like he was seeing a ghost. But Amara didn't know who he was, not fully. What she did know was that Elijah's shaking stopped the moment he appeared. And that meant everything. Samuel stepped forward, eyes locked on the guards surrounding Elijah. "I said," he repeated calmly, "unhand him." One guard cleared his throat. "Sir, this doesn't concern. It concerns me entirely." Samuel's voice sharpened. "Release him." The guards looked to the suit man for direction. The suit man stepped forward, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Grant, with all due respect, this is a private matter. The man you're interrupting us from detaining is Elijah Hale," Samuel finished for him. "Yes. I'm well aware." The suit man blinked. "You know him?" Samuel's gaze softened, not in weakness, but in sorrow. "I've been looking for him." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Amara's hand squeezed Elijah's. She looked up at Samuel, hope flickering across her small face. "Do you know Elijah too?" Samuel's expression shifted. He knelt slightly so he could meet Amara at eye level. "You must be the brave young girl I just watched stand between him and half of this station." Amara's cheeks flushed, but she lifted her chin proudly. "He needed help." Samuel nodded once, deeply moved. "And you gave it without hesitation. The world could learn from you." Before she could respond, Elijah spoke, voice trembling with disbelief. "Samuel." Samuel rose slowly, eyes never leaving Elijah's face. "Yes," he said softly. "It's me." Elijah blinked hard. His breath hitched. His hands trembled again, but differently this time. Not in fear. In recognition. Faint. Flickering. Like a memory pushing through fog. "You," Elijah whispered. "I know you." Samuel stepped closer, his voice breaking with quiet emotion. "I've been praying you would." The suit man's jaw tightened. "Mr. Grant, you don't understand. He's..." Samuel didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "What I understand," he said steadily, "is that you and your team have been following a vulnerable man through the city with no legal basis." The suit man stiffened. "We were told he was missing. We were told he was mentally unstable." Samuel's eyes darkened. "He is not unstable. He is unwell. And there is a difference. A human one." Elijah's throat tightened. Someone was finally speaking for him. The suit man tried again. "We have reports." Samuel's patience snapped. "Your reports," he said sharply, "come from the same individuals responsible for the incident that put him in this condition." A collective gasp tore through the station. Elijah swayed, gripping the bench for balance. "Incident." Samuel placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to remember right now. Just know this," his voice softened. "I'm here. I won't let them take you." A guard stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, there are protocols. And I will handle them." Samuel turned his full authority on the room. "Every single one." The guards, suddenly unsure, stepped back. The suit man clenched his jaw. "Mr. Grant, this is highly irregular." "What's highly irregular," Samuel countered, "is attempting to detain a man suffering from memory trauma without medical personnel, legal oversight, or family present." "Family," the suit man repeated. "He has no." "He does," Samuel cut in. "He just doesn't remember them yet." Elijah's eyes widened. His voice cracked. "Family." Samuel nodded once. Amara's heart ached for him. Everything in Elijah's posture, his trembling, his lost expression, the way he looked at Samuel as though clinging to a lifeline, told her he had been alone for too long. Samuel finally turned to her. You kept him safe until I arrived, he said gently. I owe you more than you know. Amara swallowed hard. I didn't want him to be scared. Samuel looked at Elijah, his voice warm and firm. You're safe now, he said. I promise you that. For the first time in what felt like years, Elijah believed someone. And that belief would change the course of everything yet to come. For a long, suspended moment, Ridgeway Central Station felt like two different worlds colliding. One where Elijah Hale was a lost, trembling man no one cared about. And another where a powerful figure like Samuel Grant stood shielding him from forces no one yet understood. The silence cracked first. A woman near the ticket line raised her phone higher. It's him, she whispered. That's really Samuel Grant. Someone else murmured, why is he protecting that man? Another voice from the back asked, wait, who is that guy? Whispers multiplied like sparks catching dry leaves. More phones lifted. More eyes locked on Elijah. The guards shifted uneasily. The suit man clenched his jaw, whispering furiously into his radio. Elijah felt the pressure of every gaze pinning him down. Hundreds of strangers trying to guess who he was, what he'd done, why Samuel Grant was defending him. He shrank back slightly, shoulders curling inward. Amara tugged gently on his sleeve. It's okay, she whispered. But even she could feel the tension thickening around them, like the air itself was waiting to explode. Samuel stepped forward, positioning himself between Elijah and the crowd. This man is under my protection, he announced clearly. There will be no further attempts to detain him. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Authority carried its own volume. The guards hesitated. Even the suit man took a step back. But the crowd? The crowd surged forward. Not physically, yet, but with curiosity shifting into appetite. People loved a dramatic scene. People loved a mystery. People loved a scandal. Especially one involving a billionaire humanitarian shielding a trembling man who looked like he'd wandered in from another life. Someone called out from behind the rails. Is he a criminal? Another. Are you arresting him or protecting him? Is he dangerous? Why is he with that little girl? Amara stiffened at that one. Elijah drew her closer to him protectively. Samuel raised a hand. Enough. But the questions didn't stop. If anything, they grew louder. Is he your relative? Is this a cover-up? Why does he look homeless? Are you running a secret program? Is he the guy from the missing person alert last month? Elijah's breath hitched. His fingers dug into the bench as the world pressed closer, tighter. The lights felt too bright. The echoing announcements too loud. Every shout stabbed at the fog in his mind, trying to tear it open. Samuel leaned toward him. Don't look at them. Focus on me. But Elijah's eyes were already glassy, panic rising like a tide. I don't know, Samuel, why are they saying? His knees buckled. Amara caught his arm with both her tiny hands. Elijah, she gasped. It's okay, you're okay. Samuel tried to steady him, but the pressure of the crowd was suffocating. Their words. Their assumptions. Their phones filming mercilessly. For the first time, people who had ignored Elijah earlier now wanted every detail about him, every flaw, every mystery, every vulnerability. Public attention was a beast that didn't care who it trampled. The suit man seized the chance. He stepped forward, projecting his voice so the entire station could hear. Mr. Grant is interfering with a mandatory retrieval operation. Elijah Hale is not stable. We have reports linking him to. Stop. Samuel's voice struck like a hammer. The suit man blinked. Samuel stepped closer, eyes burning with quiet fury. You will not fabricate accusations in an attempt to regain control of a situation you mishandled from the beginning. The bystanders gasped. The suit man's face reddened. I am simply performing my duty. Your duty, Samuel said, was to alert his family the moment he was found wandering. He pointed directly at the suit man's chest. Instead, you pursued him like a fugitive. The crowd reacted loudly, shocked, confused, murmuring among themselves. His family? What does he mean? Who is this Elijah Hale? A wave of recognition rippled through someone near the front. Oh my God, a woman whispered, eyes widening. I know that name. The crowd quieted. She swallowed hard. There was an article months ago. Elijah Hale was a partner in Grant Technologies. They said he stepped down for medical leave and disappeared. A collective gasp shuddered through the hall. Another person chimed in, wait, if that's true, then he's a millionaire. Samuel Grant's colleague. One of the founders. Missing for months. The noise crescendoed into chaos. Elijah stumbled backward, overwhelmed. His memories, shattered fragments, flickered painfully behind his eyes. A boardroom. A contract. A hospital room. Someone yelling his name. Someone grabbing his arm. A fall. A blackout. He clutched his head, trembling violently. I don't remember, make it stop. Amara hugged his waist, her small voice breaking. Elijah, it's okay, I'm here, please don't be scared. Samuel knelt beside them. Elijah, he said softly but firmly, holding his shoulders. Listen to me. Look at me. Elijah forced his eyes open. You're safe, Samuel said. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Not again. Again, Elijah echoed, voice cracking. What happened to me? Why don't I remember? Samuel's jaw clenched, sorrow filling his face. You will, he said. But not here. Not like this. We need to get you out of the public eye. The suit man objected instantly. He's not leaving this station. Samuel rose to his full height, towering over him. Yes, he said, he is. By whose authority? The suit man demanded. Samuel didn't blink. By mine. Just then. Dozens of camera flashes burst from the surrounding crowd. A teenager shouted. It's trending already. We're live. People pushed closer. Police sirens wailed outside the station. Elijah staggered, gripping Amara's shoulder. Samuel placed a protective arm around both of them. And for the first time, the entire city was watching. Without knowing that this moment was about to change everything. The station doors burst open just as the sirens faded, and a wave of uniformed city police rushed inside. Reporters, how did they get here so fast? Swarmed behind them, cameras raised, mics pointed like weapons. Elijah Hale, one shouted. Is it really him? Mr. Grant, is this a kidnapping case? Is the missing billionaire found? Phones were everywhere. Lights flashed like lightning. Voices overlapped, frantic, hungry. Amara pressed herself against Elijah's side, one hand gripping his sleeve like a lifeline. Elijah's breath was ragged. His legs shook violently. His memory, still fogged, flickered in painful shards he couldn't control. Samuel raised an arm to shield both of them. Back up, he commanded, voice like steel. Everyone stepped back. But reporters only pushed closer. Elijah, one yelled, why were you living on the streets? Did you leave voluntarily? Were you kidnapped? Did memory loss cause the disappearance? Is it true you vanished after a boardroom collapse? Boardroom. Collapse. The word slammed into Elijah's skull like bricks. He winced, grabbing his head. His knees buckled. Elijah. Amara cried, holding him tightly. Stay with me. Please. Samuel knelt, gripping Elijah's shoulders. Look at me. Breathe. But Elijah was spiraling. Memory shards collided, too fast, too sharp. A heated meeting. Voices yelling about assets. A contract someone wanted him to sign. A shove, no, a fall. A bright light. A hospital. Someone whispering, make him disappear. He gasped, eyes wide with terror. Samuel, they. His voice broke. They wanted to take everything. Samuel's expression hardened with anguish and fury. The crowd fell silent. Every camera pointed at Elijah. And Samuel knew it was time. Time to reveal the truth the public had been fed lies about for months. He stood slowly, helping Elijah to his feet, keeping one steadying arm around him. Then he turned toward the roaring sea of reporters and onlookers. His voice was calm. Controlled. Devastatingly clear. For 6 months, Samuel began, the entire city has been told that Elijah Hale, co-founder of Grant Technologies, voluntarily left his position and disappeared. Gasps rippled across the station. Reporters leaned forward. Phones trembled in people's hands. Samuel continued. That story was a lie. A shocked outcry burst through the crowd. Elijah swayed, gripping Amara tighter. Samuel's jaw clenched as he delivered the truth. Elijah did not step down. He was attacked. His injuries left him with severe memory trauma. And the individuals responsible ensured he was kept vulnerable, isolated, and hidden. The station erupted. What? Attacked? By who? How did he end up homeless? Why didn't the board report this? The suit man burst forward angrily. Mr. Grant, you have no proof. Samuel spun toward him sharply. I have all the proof, he said coldly. Including security footage. Medical reports. Witness testimonies. Enough to put several people behind bars. Elijah's eyes widened. Footage. Of me? Samuel softened. Yes. And you'll see it when you're ready. The crowd roared with new energy, anger, sympathy, disbelief. A reporter shouted above the chaos, Mr. Grant, does this mean Elijah Hale is still legally a co-owner of the company? Samuel nodded. He never lost his title. Another reporter called out. Is he still one of the wealthiest men in the state? Samuel nodded again. And more importantly, he added, he is my closest friend. My partner. My brother in everything but blood. A hushed silence fell like a wave. Elijah blinked, stunned. Brother. Samuel gripped his shoulder. Yes. Always. Then Samuel lifted Elijah's hand so the cameras could see. This man, he said loudly, was left for dead by people who wanted his empire. And he survived because of one thing. He turned to Amara. Her eyes widened. Samuel smiled gently. Because a little girl with a bigger heart than this entire station decided he deserved kindness. Cameras pivoted instantly. Reporters gasped. The crowd murmured. That's the girl. She helped him. She protected him from security. That tiny kid saved a billionaire. Amara froze, overwhelmed. Elijah looked down at her, tears in his eyes. You saved me, he whispered. You saved me. Suddenly. The entire station applauded. Not polite applause. Thunderous applause. For Elijah's survival. For Samuel's truth. But most of all. For a little girl who refused to walk away. Amara's cheeks glowed, her braids trembling as she clung to Elijah's side. The world finally saw him. And the world finally saw her too. But the storm wasn't over. There were still people who wanted Elijah silenced. And they were about to crash into the station with one last attempt. The applause still echoed across the station when the mood shifted. Sharp, sudden, electric. A sound cut through the clapping. Not applause. Not cheering. A shout. Stop lying to them. Everyone froze. Samuel turned sharply. Elijah tensed. Amara grabbed his hand instinctively. Pushing through the crowd was a tall man in an expensive coat, flanked by two others. His face was tight with anger, his jaw clenched so hard it looked like stone. People began whispering. Is that? Wait, I've seen him in business articles. That's Victor Langston. Elijah's former partner. Victor stormed forward, pointing a shaking finger at Samuel. You don't speak for this company anymore, he spat. And you certainly don't speak for Elijah. Samuel's eyes narrowed. That's exactly what I'm doing, because he can't speak for himself. Victor barked out a bitter laugh. Convenient, isn't it? A sudden memory loss. A mysterious disappearance. And you swoop in claiming to be his savior? Samuel stiffened. The crowd gasped. Reporters surged forward, cameras rolling. This was the confrontation they wanted. A public corporate war exploding in a train station. Victor turned toward them dramatically, voice rising. Don't you get it? This is a setup. Elijah Hale didn't wander off. He wasn't attacked. He chose to walk away because he couldn't handle the business anymore. Elijah flinched as if slapped. Amara squeezed his hand tighter. Victor continued, louder, angrier. He left because he wasn't stable. He left because he was a liability. And Samuel is using him to regain control of the board. Samuel stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. You're lying. Victor smirked. Prove it. Samuel's jaw flexed. You tried to push Elijah out of the company, he said. You pressured him into signing documents he didn't understand. And when he questioned your numbers. Victor snapped, he accused me of fraud. Because you were committing fraud, Samuel fired back. Gasps exploded from the crowd. Reporters shoved microphones forward. Mr. Langston, is that true? Were you under investigation? Is this why Elijah vanished? Victor's face reddened. His two men stepped closer, creating a wall behind him. Victor pointed at Elijah, who stood trembling next to Amara. Tell them the truth. Victor shouted. Tell them you left willingly. Tell them you walked out on your responsibilities. Elijah stared blankly. Lost, overwhelmed, panting. He shook his head slowly. I don't remember, he whispered. Victor seized on it immediately. Exactly, he yelled. He remembers nothing. How convenient for Samuel Grant, who's been waiting years to take over full control. Samuel's voice cut through like a blade. You're desperate, Victor. Victor lunged forward, shouting, they should be hearing my side. The motion was too fast. Too aggressive. Too close to Elijah. Amara stepped in front of Elijah, arms spread wide like a tiny shield. Don't you yell at him. Victor stopped cold. The entire station went silent. Amara glared up at him, tiny chest heaving. He's scared, she said, voice trembling with courage. You're making it worse. You're not helping. You're hurting him. Victor stared at her, this small girl defying him, speechless for the first time. Then the murmurs started. She's right. Why is he screaming at a child? That's Elijah Hale, not a criminal. Leave them alone. The crowd began turning against Victor. Public opinion shifting like a tidal wave. Victor's face darkened. He glared at Elijah. You're ruining everything. You were supposed to disappear quietly. Elijah gasped. The words hit him like a physical blow. Something inside him cracked. A memory pushed through the fog. A boardroom. Victor shoving paperwork at him. Victor yelling. Victor grabbing his arm. The fall. The blackout. Darkness. Pain flared behind Elijah's eyes. He stumbled backward. Samuel lunged to catch him. Elijah. Elijah. Look at me. But Elijah stared past him, straight at Victor. You, he whispered, voice hoarse. You hurt me. Victor paled. What? No. You pushed me. Elijah's voice shook with dawning horror. I remember, you pushed me. The crowd erupted into chaos. Victor stepped back, stammering, That's not what happened. Samuel grabbed Elijah protectively. Reporters surged forward. Did you assault Elijah Hale? Did you cause his disappearance? Mr. Langston, are you responsible for the boardroom incident? Victor's face drained of color. This is ridiculous, I'm calling my lawyer. But before he could retreat, uniformed police stepped forward. One officer announced loudly. Victor Langston, you are being detained for questioning in connection with the disappearance and injury of Elijah Hale. The station exploded in cheers. People clapped. Phones recorded every angle. Reporters shouted questions. Victor was handcuffed as he shouted. This isn't over. His memory isn't proof. You'll regret this, all of you. But no one listened. Samuel turned to Elijah, voice softening instantly. You remembered something. Elijah nodded, tears burning his eyes. I remember him. Amara hugged Elijah tightly. You're safe now. And for the first time in months. Elijah believed her. The city had witnessed the truth. But justice? Justice was only beginning. The storm of the confrontation slowly shifted into a new atmosphere. Not fear, not chaos. But justice finally waking up. Victor Langston, once untouchable in the eyes of the business world, now stood handcuffed in the center of Ridgeway Central Station. Cameras zoomed in on his pale, furious face as officers surrounded him. People cheered. People booed. People recorded, narrating the downfall of a man they once saw on magazine covers. But Elijah just shook. Not from fear. From the weight of truth returning to him after months of emptiness. Samuel kept one arm around him. Easy. It's all right. You're with me. Elijah swallowed hard. He really tried to get rid of me. Samuel nodded, sorrow in his eyes. You uncovered his fraudulent numbers. You confronted him. And he panicked. He pushed you into that fall. Elijah touched the back of his head where a faint scar hid beneath his unkempt hair. It hurt, he whispered, voice cracking. I remember, darkness. Cold. Then waking up outside somewhere, not knowing who I was. Samuel exhaled shakily. I looked for you every day. Elijah's eyes filled with tears, not just of pain, but gratitude. How did I survive? He asked quietly. Samuel looked at Amara. She found you, he said softly. She saved you. Amara flushed, gripping Elijah's sleeve shyly. I just didn't want them to hurt you. Elijah knelt slightly so he could look her in the eyes. Everyone else walked past me, he murmured. Everyone else saw nothing. But you saw me. A tear rolled down his cheek. And because of you, I'm going home. Amara's eyes filled too, though she blinked quickly so her tears wouldn't fall. Before the moment could deepen further, police escorted Victor forward. Samuel stepped in front of him. Victor, he said quietly, you could have come clean months ago. Victor sneered. And lose everything? Samuel shook his head. You lost it anyway. Victor snapped, this isn't over. Samuel replied calmly, for you, it is. Officers pulled Victor away, his protests fading as he was dragged through the growing crowd of onlookers. People clapped again, this time not from spectacle, but from relief. From vindication. From witnessing real justice delivered before their eyes. A reporter approached, breathless with urgency. Mr. Grant. Mr. Hale. Now that the truth is out, what happens next? Samuel glanced at Elijah. Elijah looked lost for only a heartbeat. Then he straightened, still trembling, but with a new steadiness in his eyes. I go home, he said softly. I get the help I need. The reporter nodded eagerly. And your position at Grant Technologies? Samuel answered that one. Elijah remains co-owner, he said firmly. He will resume his role once he is healthy. And we will publicly expose every detail Victor and his associates tried to bury. People clapped again. Elijah blinked, overwhelmed. I don't even know how to be me anymore. Samuel placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll figure it out. Together. Elijah's voice softened into something raw. Thank you. Samuel shook his head. Don't thank me. Thank her. He looked at Amara again. The little girl who had changed everything. Reporters turned their cameras on her. Amara froze, eyes wide. She wasn't used to attention. She wasn't used to being seen. But she held Elijah's hand firmly, refusing to let go. A reporter crouched to her height. Why did you help him, sweetie? Weren't you scared? Amara shook her head. He looked sad, she said simply. And everyone was yelling at him. Nobody helped. Mama says if people forget how to be kind, then kids have to remind them. The reporter swallowed hard. Even the cameras seemed to soften. Samuel stepped between the cameras and the children. That's enough footage, he said firmly. No exploiting her kindness. Security officers and station staff helped create space. Finally. The noise began to fade. Samuel placed a gentle hand on Elijah's back. Come on, he said. Let's get you somewhere warm. Somewhere safe. Elijah looked at Amara. Will you come with us? He asked softly. Amara nodded without hesitation. Yes. She didn't understand everything happening. But she understood Elijah needed her. And that was enough. As they walked out of the station, Samuel steadying Elijah on one side, Amara holding his hand on the other, crowds parted respectfully. Some clapped. Some whispered prayers. Some cried. Because they weren't just watching a man regain his life. They were watching justice finally rise for someone the world had ignored. The city had seen scandals. It had seen corruption exposed, companies crumble, leaders fall. But it had never seen a story like this. A billionaire rediscovered, a conspiracy uncovered. And at the heart of it all, a quiet 11-year-old girl with braids and a backpack. Amara didn't know that yet. All she knew was that Elijah's hand was warm in hers as Samuel guided the two of them out of Ridgeway Central Station, past crowds of cheering strangers and flashing camera lights. Outside, the cool air hit Elijah's face like a blessing. For months he had slept on cold sidewalks, unaware of his past. Now he was stepping into sunlight again, with a friend on each side. Samuel opened the door of a sleek black SUV. Come on, he said gently. Let's get you home. Elijah hesitated. The word felt foreign. Distant. Unreachable. Home, he whispered, voice trembling. Do I still have one? Samuel smiled softly. You do. And it's waiting for you. Amara squeezed Elijah's fingers. I'll sit with you. You'll be okay. For the first time in half a year, Elijah believed someone. He climbed in. Amara slid next to him. Samuel sat in front. The car drove off through a wave of people holding phones high, filming, cheering, crying. A stranger held a sign already. Kindness saved a king. But Elijah didn't see that. He saw Amara, swinging her legs nervously, watching him like she was afraid he might disappear again. He smiled weakly. I'm not going anywhere. She smiled too, small, fragile, hopeful. The next days blurred into weeks. Elijah was admitted to a private clinic, quiet, warm, filled with sunlight instead of interrogation. Doctors examined him gently, respectfully. Samuel visited every day. But the brightest part of Elijah's recovery was always the same. Amara. She visited after school, sitting cross-legged on his bed, telling him stories about her classmates, drawing pictures for him, reminding him to drink water, braiding loose strands of his hair when nurses laughed too loudly. Sometimes, Elijah woke up sweating from nightmares, shadows of Victor, echoes of confusion, fear that he'd lose himself again. Every time, without fail, Amara would touch his arm. I'm here, she'd whisper. You're safe. And he believed her. Slowly, painfully, memories returned. His daughter's name. His favorite tea. The smell of his office. His argument with Victor. And then. The fall. The moment Victor shoved him in rage. The sharp pain as his head struck the edge of a table. The blurring lights. The world slipping away. Elijah cried the night that memory resurfaced. Amara wiped his tears with the corner of her sleeve. It's not your fault, she said gently. Grown-ups can be mean too. He laughed through his tears. They can. While Elijah healed, the city erupted with emotion. News channels ran stories about him non-stop. Hashtags filled social media. Hashtag Elijah Hale returns. Hashtag Justice for Elijah. Hashtag Amara the Brave. Hashtag Kindness is Power. People sent letters. Strangers left flowers outside the clinic. Children drew pictures of Amara holding Elijah's hand. The mayor released a statement condemning corporate abuse. Investigations into Victor Langston and his associates grew wider every day. But the most shocking change came from ordinary people. They began noticing those they used to ignore. Shelter donations doubled. Volunteers tripled. A campaign launched called See the Invisible. And everywhere, people mentioned the same name. Amara. 3 weeks after the station incident, Samuel called Amara's mother. Your daughter, he said, has changed our city. We'd like to honor her officially. Amara's mother, bewildered and emotional, agreed. The event was held at the steps of City Hall. Hundreds gathered. Cameras lined the streets. Posters of Amara and Elijah decorated the buildings. But the little girl herself stood nervously behind her mother, clutching her sleeve. Mama, why are there so many people? She whispered. Her mother smiled, brushing her cheek. Because you were brave, baby. And because kindness is rare. Then she kissed her forehead. Go on. They're waiting for you. Samuel stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for being here today, he began. We stand here because a man was saved, not by wealth, not by power, not by technology, but by kindness. He looked at Amara. By her kindness. The crowd erupted in applause. Amara's cheeks burned red. Samuel continued, voice thick with emotion. When the whole city ignored Elijah Hale. When even trained security officers dismissed him. When powerful individuals hunted him. This 11-year-old girl chose compassion. He gestured for Amara to come forward. She stepped up shyly, her braids shining under the sunlight. Samuel knelt beside her. "Amara Holt," he said softly into the microphone, "you reminded us of something adults forget too easily. That the smallest act of human goodness can rewrite the ending of an entire story." He turned to Elijah, standing a few steps behind them, clean, recovering, and dressed in a navy suit he once owned. "Elijah is alive today because of you," Samuel continued. "And so today, we honor you with the City Humanitarian Medal, the highest we can award any citizen, child or adult." A city worker opened a velvet box. Inside was a gold medallion shaped like a heart wrapped in two hands. Samuel placed it around her neck as cameras flashed. Amara stared at it, overwhelmed. "But," she whispered, "I didn't do something big." Samuel smiled. Sometimes, the smallest kindness becomes the biggest miracle. Elijah stepped forward, tears glistening. He knelt before her. "Amara, you saved my life," he said, voice breaking. "You saved me. And I will spend the rest of my days honoring what you gave me back." He opened his arms. Amara threw herself into them. The city watched. Some crying. Some cheering. All changed. In the months that followed, a foundation was created in Amara's name. The Amara Initiative, helping the overlooked. Amara and her mother moved into a safer, better home. Donated quietly by Elijah, though he claimed it was a thank you rent discount. Schoolchildren across the city wrote essays about kindness. Neighborhoods formed volunteer groups. Businesses began training employees to recognize signs of trauma instead of assuming the worst. But the biggest legacy? People stopped walking past the suffering. The city learned to see again. And whenever someone asked Elijah what changed his life the most, he didn't say justice, or wealth, or regained memory. He always answered the same. A little girl who believed a stranger deserved kindness. Amara would blush every time. But she would smile too. Because deep down, she knew. She didn't just save Elijah. She saved the part of the city that had forgotten how to care.